Today, I'm going to be talking about how to get every item in Fortnite Save the World again. 5 years ago, look at the date on that, March of 2019, I made a big video that's been kind of a cornerstone of my channel, the second most popular video I've ever made, covering every single item in the game. And I let that sit for a lot of reasons. It was 80% accurate. It told you what you needed, even in the modern day. If you follow this guide, you'll get all the resources you need and you'll be good to go. But I never updated this video for one main reason. Most of the videos on my channel take less than an hour to make and I just whip it out. Or it's one of those weapon guides that are super fun to make and it takes a ton of time, but this video took 9 straight hours on the day that I created it, and it is a gargantuan topic. Look at the description. There are so many items in this game, and compiling all that information is just a massive undertaking, and I never did it, okay? But I should have, because a lot has changed. Since that video, you're not gonna believe some of this. I had to double check this. Fossil Southie wasn't in the game yet. One of the best, if not the best farming hero in the entire game was not there, alongside Clip. She came years later, but if you're not farming with Fossil Southie and Clip, then you're missing out. If you don't have access to those heroes, check the timeline in the description down below. It's a really good resource for when those characters come back to the game. If you're out of season, you can voucher them, but rest assured, if you don't have Clip or Southie, you'll be just fine farming, because as you'll see with the rest of this video, most of my tips don't even involve a farming loadout. So not only do we have significantly better farming heroes now, but we have significantly better farming methods. Did you know that animals, or even glowing animals, did not exist when that video came out? Oh yeah, they didn't come out for years until after, and they are one of the primary sources of farming. You can see that I pulled up my recycling chart here. You can get almost every single item in the game by recycling traps and weapons. If you take nothing else from this video, kill glowing animals, recycle their loot. Do storm chests, recycle that loot. Do target practice, recycle those weapons, recycle those traps, because they will give you all of this. They will not give you power cells, resin, or building materials, but every other crafting item in the game is obtainable through recycling. It's incredibly powerful. Now, on top of that, we didn't have ventures back then, which means every single season of ventures, we are restarting with an empty inventory and having to farm all over again. Obviously, most people probably know how to farm. They've seen my farming loadouts video, link down below, but these tips will help make every venture season less painful. And personally speaking, I don't even use a farming loadout all that often, because you don't even need it if you do everything. That includes anomalies, encampments, storm chests, target practice, glowing animals, recycling all that loot, as I said, kill every mimic, search every chest, run expeditions, and you will have all the loot you could ever need. Of course, expeditions doesn't count towards ventures, but you get what I mean. Everything else applies. Now, 2 more notable changes that came to the game is 100% recycling, and adhesive resin is useful. I'm gonna get to that second point early, just because I slammed adhesive resin because it was actually useless. It was kind of shocking when I made my every item video years ago, but I found out that adhesive resin did nothing besides craft duct tape. That was its sole purpose in the entire game. And considering you could just get duct tape from smacking ducks and picking the duct tape up, you never ever needed to craft it, so adhesive resin was completely useless. In the modern era, we use adhesive resin for crafting rocket ammo, arguably the most expensive ammo type in the game, only competing with energy cells, which no longer requires bacon, by the way. A little update from the old video again there. But yeah, rocket ammo, super useful. So now we need resin again. Great. You get it from trees, all the same as before, and the other sources that I'll be talking about throughout this video. But the other more notable change from that old video is that we get 100% return from traps. That is huge. That means when you are recycling traps from any source that I've mentioned already, you're getting way more resources from it, and that includes trap expeditions. And on top of that, when you're managing your items in your inventory, you can actually store significantly more items inside of a stack of traps. Many endgame players end up with an inventory that looks like this, just stacks and stacks of traps, not just to be used, but because putting a bunch of items into 200 broadsides is way more efficient than storing all those items uncrafted inside of our backpack. So that's a really, really good thing, and this isn't really relevant to the every item section, but we have 999 stacks. That doesn't change how you farm, but awesome. We can save 5 times the resources, which is awesome. It's a really, really good quality of life change that everybody was happy about, and that's just something I wanted to mention. Now, with all those updates out of the way, let's talk about the best ways to get items in this game, and this first section is by far the most important in the entire video. As I've already alluded to several times, recycling loot and looting around the map, killing glowing animals, etc. is the best way to farm in Fortnite Save the World. You can do it in every game, regardless of loadout. You can can always just go do an encampment. You can always just go shoot a glowing animal. Hell, half the time your drones are going to do it for you, whether or not you even notice. So if you do all of these little things around the map as you go along, and I'll be going through those in just a second, you might never actually need to dedicate a mission to farming. Of course, the farming loadouts video is linked down below as mentioned, but if you just do everything I'm about to tell you, you might never actually need to do focused farming again. Of course, if you get low on a certain resource, go for it. I'm not discrediting farming naturally. It's a great way to get a lot of resources quickly. I'm just saying you might never have to. All right. Now, if you go to the command section, go to heroes and go to expeditions, you will get the first and foremost easiest way to get resources in the entire game. This is a current bug right now. I don't know why it's magenta. We're going to ignore it. Expeditions are the easiest way to get resources in the game. You can run trap expeditions and recycle the loot you get. You can get supply crate expeditions and you'll just get a bunch of free loot. And the red box ones is poorly represented here because I only have a low power level here to show you today, but they are very, very good. I have another chart. Flashbang warning. I have another chart. This is every single resource you could get from Minigames. We'll talk about that in a section, talk about information overload, but the resources down here from the expeditions are crazy. The red box expeditions give you everything besides tier 5 resources and Shadowshard. That's it. Every other item in the game is available. You can get Powercells, batteries. You get so many nuts and bolts that I had to stop running these after a week. My inventory was filling up. So even if you're farming regularly and you're an active player, or if you're just really lazy, you should just be running expeditions anyway. I feel like no player in the entire game has any excuse not to run expeditions because we can all get extra heroes. This is Fortnite DB. I talk about it every single day in my daily series, showing off the missions. You know, subscribe for more. But this is a resource that shows you all of the survivors and everything available, but we get heroes available just for pickup in regular missions every day. Sometimes they're in higher level missions, sometimes they're in lower level missions, sometimes they're purple, sometimes they're legendary. It's a bit random. It is random. But by keeping up with what heroes are available on a day-to-day basis, you should be able to have spare power level 130 or whatever power level you're at. I am gearing this video towards people at all power levels, so you can just level up whatever spare heroes you have at whatever power level you can make them, put them into expeditions, and you will get free loot. Literally free loot, and a lot of it at that. The higher power level of the expedition you run, the more loot you'll get, but if you're getting less stuff from a lower level expedition, it's still free. So it's a really, really good resource. The one thing I would caution against is new players doing this, because free loot is great, but your research points should be spent on raising your power level early. In my opinion, if you want to max out as quick as possible, you should prioritize research, but at the same time, there is nothing waiting for you at the end of the game. The journey of Save the World is the adventure. That is the fun part. Getting everything leveled up at the end of the game is just kind of an afterthought. So you don't need to max out your power level as quickly as possible. So if you want to save your research for power level, I don't blame you. I have a whole video on that. Link in the description down below if you do want to power up fast. But if you want to spend a little time getting expeditions sent, that would be a great way to farm alongside everything else. So expeditions are awesome. I want to say a quick thank you and a good resource to everybody to AS407. He decided to start charting everything he gets from his expeditions, and you can go left and right on this. I will be linking this into the description down below. He's going to update this as he runs more and more tests. This is just one guy, so it's not an end-all be-all chart, but it is a really, really useful resource for how to get certain heroes. I didn't even talk about survivor expeditions. It's a really, really good chart that you can check out yourself. Link in the description down below. Thank you again to AS407. And while I'm talking about a thank you, I'm going to have a section in the description down below thanking individuals who helped with this project. This is a massive undertaking. This is the closest I've ever gotten to a script for one of these videos, and a lot of people helped me out in preparing all of this information, so thank you once again. Now, after you're done with expeditions, minigames are key. I'm hopefully showing some gameplay on screen. It might just be encampment stock footage, but anomalies are fantastic. They're a little slow to get all the shards, but you do get blue glow for the mission that you're running, and you get excellent resources. You should also be doing encampments and storm chests and target practice and the shadow orbs where you kill the little mist monsters. Pretty much all of the minigames around the map are really, really good, and that's what the top section of this chart shows. Now, there are certain categories of minigames. If you do a wood minigame encampment, you'll be getting wood, planks, and then the associated twine with the zone that you're in. If you're in stonewood, you'll be getting this lower stringy twine, and if you're in the highest zones, you'll get carved twine and a little peaky twine. It just depends on a little bit of luck there. Even in the 160 zones, we still get peaky twine, but it's mostly carved. And then if you do the brick encampment, you'll get a lot of brick. That also scales with the zone that you're in. In the highest level missions, you'll get north of 400 brick for a quick encampment. That is really, really good. You will almost never catch me smacking a rock. I'll do it, of course, but if you need brick, you need brick. But this will take care of it almost certainly. It's really, really effective. You'll also get rough ore and then the associated mineral powder, and then the same thing for metal. You'll get metal, more than 400 in the end game. You'll get nuts and bolts, which is great, and then you'll get the different mechanical parts associated with your power level. Quartz encampments are a little trickier because, technically speaking, crystals are an offshoot of the main path. So as you're progressing, let me just scroll down here, you'll be upgrading weapons that are copper, and then you'll evolve them to silver, and then you'll evolve them to malachite. We all got to get to malachite at some point, and that's where the paths diverge. You can either stay on course and go for an obsidian and then Brightcore upgrade path, or you can diverge to Shadowshard and then Sunbeam. I have a whole video on what's better or worse in the description down below. It's a really good resource. Usually on average, Sunbeam is better for damage, but we've been finding that a lot of weapons like the Xenon Bow are actually just as good Brightcore and maybe even better. So link to that Xenon Bow, Brightcore versus Sunbeam video in the description down below. That demonstrates a lot about the differences between Brightcore and Sunbeam. It might be a little more gray than we used to think, but Shadowshard is typically the best way to go, and that's why Quartz encampments are great. Not only do you need Quartz for all crystal weapon crafting, but Shadowshard and Sunbeam is great to get that for free. So that's an excellent resource. Now, of course, we got the copper one, which will show copper all the way to the end game, even though in the end game you will be getting Brightcore. A little bit confusing. That actually threw me off for a long time when I was playing this game initially. So yeah, if you run that at any power level, you'll get the different ores, which can be great because a lot of launchers in the game only use Brightcore. You know, there is no Shadowshard launcher in the entire game. So some of the best weapons in the game still require Brightcore, even if we say Sunbeam is better. And then my favorite one is the anvil, because I had to make this icon. Thank you. There was no icon in the files that I could steal, so I had to recreate it. But this is everything that I'm aware of that you can get from the anvil. I'm going to have a pinned comment down below if I mistake anything. Even right before recording, after months of research, I found out that you can get planks from these. It's really hard to test this because you have to hop in game, destroy encampments, and then you have to do a lot of encampments that are crafting resources to even know for sure. You could do anomalies as well, but it just takes a lot of testing, and I'm pretty sure this is the complete list. If there's anything to add to this, pin comment down below, but this is the gist of it. You should do these crafting ones all the time. It's easy batteries, easy nuts and bolts and quartz and all of this good stuff. It's great. And one thing I do want to mention is that this is not an exhaustive list of the icons. There is one more that's a chest icon. That's good too. You should do that as well, and it's a good thing to mention. It's just harder to chart it right here, and it felt a little too confusing to add to this already very busy list. So I'm going to stop here. Suffice it to say, you should do encampments, you should do anomalies, you should do target practice, storm chests, recycle the weapons and the traps that you get, and you'll be taken care of nice and easy. And alongside that is killing glowing animals. Glowing animals are fun and cute, but they give you so much good loot. It is an awesome feeling to see a crow, snipe it with a xenon bow, and then you just get batteries. That's it. You get coal, you get something rare like a power cell. It's a really good feeling. And then whatever weapon or trap they drop, you probably have a better version that you can craft. So in the normal game, you should just recycle it, and in ventures, enjoy your new weapon. One video I made on my channel, I actually started my venture season by killing a glowing animal and immediately having a purple siegebreaker, which as a level 1 ventures player, I was more than happy to receive. So glowing animals are fantastic. You should shoot them all the time. Throw your drones, that'll kill them automatically. It is one of the best sources in the entire game. And killing enemies can get you great resources. Obviously mimics, because they drop chests of loot that you should pick up, but also mist monsters. Mist monsters like zappy faces, smashers, takers, they will drop tier 5 loot in the end game and good loot at any power level. So obviously you're going to be killing enemies and save the world. That's kind of the idea. But just note that when you kill the big purple zombies and mini bosses, you'll get extra loot on top of that. Now, I found this chart on Reddit, linked to the original post in the description down below. Thank you so much for putting this together, but this is a good overview of many, not all, I had to add a couple at the bottom here, but many of the different sources that you can get different items in the game. I'm not going to go over everything here. You can pause the video if you want, screenshot it and zoom in maybe, or check out the original post description down below. But this is just a good overview of where to get a lot of the general items outside of everything that I've already said. I just want to say in this section of my suggestions to search containers. If you're somebody who runs coconuts, you probably are searching a lot of containers already, but every container in the game drops something. Lots of random loot. You could just get free stuff by searching. Obviously, smack gnomes to get power cells, because normally I don't recommend, bushes or caves or whatever specifically. Obviously, if you need fibrous herbs, search bushes, but Power cells are one of the rarest, most useful items in the game because each and every power cell is one legendary item. You need power cells all the time for your weapons, and getting them can be kind of tricky. So if you ever want to target power cells, just smack gnomes. I should probably be talking about this in the power cell section of the video, as I will with all of these items, but that's kind of a nice overview of all the different items before we get into the fun stuff. Now, I want to do a disclaimer section. Disclaimer is very important because I want you guys to know that I will not be talking about tier 6 materials. These were distributed by Epic Games on accident a long time ago, and they've been duped to hell nowadays. I just have a few as a collector because it feels cool having them. They are completely useless. Epic has no plans for them. You cannot obtain these items legitimately anymore. There's just nothing to talk about here, so I will not be covering them. And some basic advice to everybody: never trade weapons. Honestly, if you and a friend are trading regular resources, he needs some efficient parts, you need some carved twine, that's honestly a good trade. I don't think trading is inherently bad, but if you're a new player and you're being gifted 130s, 144s, people are just dumping stuff in your inventory, it's going to ruin the progression of the game. It's not going to feel like you did anything yourself, and it's going to trivialize the game from there on forth. So using the weapons that you can craft and getting through missions on your own is the most rewarding way to play the game. And when I say on your own, I just mean with your own resources. If you play with friends, that's great. You should be doing that. It is a team game. But I just want to warn everybody against trading because you can get scammed very easily, and you might get scammed without realizing it. I've heard of players dropping tons of nuts and bolts and rough ore for like a bunch of 130 gravediggers, but what you're getting is a bunch of overpowered weapons that will trivialize your experience, like I just said, and you'll be giving up nuts and bolts and rough ore that you are going to want for the rest of your Save the World experience. So just saying, you shouldn't trade, and asking around can be fine, but just be careful. Again, for the third time, farming loadout description down below, and the rest of this video. Let's talk about individual items. Oh boy, this is going to be the fun part. Now, I have talked about everything in the intro because I don't want to repeat myself a ton throughout this video. I am going to have little icons that do that for me. So, the first icon I'm going to have at the top of the screen is what traps can be crafted with rough ore. Is going to be our first section, so let's start with rough ore. Every single trap at the top of the screen can be crafted with rough ore. I'm not going to be putting weapon types up there because it's too hard, and I feel like if you are trying to play the game normally, you know what weapon you want, and you know what resources it needs. I don't need to list every single weapon up there. I think traps are easy and universal and will get the point across. Not to mention recycling traps will give you the resource, so it's a good thing to have up there. The second thing I'm going to have up there is whether or not it can be obtained through recycling. This means every trap and every weapon, so I'm just going to have a yes or no if you can get it from recycling. That'll just make it clear right away. And then I'm also going to have which minigames drop that. That would be the wood, brick, or metal. It might be a little bit confusing visually, but you'll get the hang of it. And then I'm going to have the crafting icon if it comes from that. That way you know instantly which encampment or anomaly you're going to want to do to get that specific resource. And then finally, which expedition. It's just going to be supply crates or the red box. Those are pretty much the only two that are relevant to this discussion. Other expeditions are good as mentioned, but it's kind of outside the scope of this video. You should just be running expeditions, highest power level first, and go from there. That way, instead of repeating myself for the entire video, you could just look at the icons in the top left and then instantly know the gist of how to get these items outside of the specific way that I'll be talking throughout the video. Now, rough ore is the first item I'll be talking about. Rough ore is easy. You just punch rocks and you'll get rough ore. Different rocks and brick related materials will give you rough ore in general. And then if you want to search the stacks of bricks in game, that'll give you rough ore and brick. Planks are just as easy as rough ore. You punch trees and wood-related objects, and you'll get planks. And then, of course, if you search the stacks of wood on the ground, you'll be able to get wood and planks as well. Nuts and bolts are a bit trickier than the other two because it's not just metal, it's mechanical objects, which could be pretty much anything that you think is mechanical. Parking meters, cars, laundry machines, which are also a great source of batteries if you search them and break them. We'll get to that in a bit. But the best place by far are electrical grid areas. If you punch that with clip in the lead, you could get over 100 nuts and bolts in one punch. It's a really, really good source of that. Again, expeditions are a better source, but I'm trying to be focused in the game here. So obviously you can do everything I mentioned in the intro of the video, but electrical stuff gives you nuts and bolts. And then if you search metal stacks on the ground, you'll get metal and nuts and bolts. Since we mentioned it before, we might as well cover batteries. Batteries come from those laundry machines as mentioned, and most metallic objects. I don't honestly have an extensive list of every single metallic object that gives you batteries, but cars are a really bad source. It's like a 7% drop rate, but anything mechanical, you kind of know it when you see it. I'll have footage on screen. I also have a 20-second video on how to get batteries that, you know what, I'm just going to put into this video now.
Batteries come from anything and everything electrical. Cars, washing machines, more washing machines. Chances are if it gives you nuts and bolts, it probably gives you batteries. They are rare though, so sometimes you just have to keep on looking. If you see an anvil, you might get batteries. Do a storm chest or a target practice, recycle those. They also come from searching containers and expeditions.
There you go. I made that forever ago, but all the information is still relevant. If you combine that 20-second video with everything I mentioned before about recycling and killing glowing animals, you should get all the batteries you need. Moving on to the herbs, fibrous herbs, and flowers. I'm covering these at the exact same time because they are basically the same. Once again, I have a nice ancient video that covers this well, and I put a lot of work into the edit, so I'm going to show that on screen.
We got our first 2-for-1, boys. I got one of each just so I can show you guys that these are super rare. Just kidding. You get flowers and fibrous herbs from searching bushes. You can go to forests and deserts. They're very common there. They come from the same expeditions as well, so you don't have to worry about that. And if you get lucky enough searching in a ghost town, you'll uncover one of the shroom rooms, and you can get lots and lots of fibrous herbs here because it's my understanding that they're actually more common coming from mushrooms. So search around for mushrooms, especially when you're looking specifically for fibrous herbs. And you guys have no idea how long we looked for this. I swear to God, I even had to enlist Nathaniel for his help. This took so freaking long, and I actually delayed the upload of this video, so you better appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching.
So yeah, just search bushes and make Dwight jealous by killing the Hay King, and you'll have all the fibrous herbs and flowers that you need. Bacon is a weird one. So you have to search spam cans on the ground, just like those little nuts and bolts cans that you can open that I should have mentioned earlier. If you search the spam cans, you get bacon. Toilets, you get bacon. Gross. And the best source of bacon in the game are corn stalks. Yeah. If you go into, is it Ghost Town, Thunder Route 99? I think Ghost Town and deserts are where these are more common, although they are not guaranteed on your map. Corn stalks are an excellent source. If you target corn stalks specifically, you should get all the bacon you need. Of course, red box and traps minigames in the upper left, that'll be the better way to get bacon. But if you want to get it in map, those are the ideal ways. Duct tapes and adhesive resin. I'm covering these at the same time because adhesive resin crafts into duct tape, and the only normal way to get duct tape, other than the things mentioned in the top left, is from smacking ducks. Yeah, if you see yellow ducks around the map, smack them. You'll get lots of duct tape. And adhesive resin, you just get it from trees, so as long as you're farming twine and planks and wood, you'll get plenty of adhesive resin. Blast powder and coal. I'm covering these at the same time because blast powder is not a naturally occurring item. The only way to get blast powder naturally is from like searching random boxes, but that's it. You might be able to get it from that. I don't even know for sure. The key way is recycling, as of course I've been mentioning throughout the video, and crafting with coal. Coal you can get from ores inside of caves. This is a fine way to get coal. If you see it, you can punch it. Clip will make that easier. But you can also search fire pits or the little present boxes from Crackshot's area. In recent history, Crackshot's neighborhood has been turned into a ventures only zone, so that's not super useful for the main game, but if there are some Frost Knight themed maps in the future that are available main game that have present boxes, that is what gives you coal, and then of course just recycling and expeditions as usual. Active power cells. You punch gnomes. That's pretty much it. Gnomes and red box expeditions. Those are the key ways to get power cells. If you search random boxes around the map, they can give you power cells, but gnomes and expeditions. Mineral powder is going to be its own section because that includes rough, simple, fine-grained Char-Black and oxidized mineral powder. The only key thing I want to mention is the difference is just the power level of the zone you're in. It's a bit of a gradient, so I've heard that you can get oxidized mineral powder in the 82 zones, but it really kicks off in the 108 plus. If you're trying to farm a specific type of mineral powder, you don't really need to go out of your way because whatever power level you are comfortably playing at is going to be giving you the associated mineral powder that you really need at your power level. So if you're a power level 80 to 90, 82 weapons are going to be just fine, and if you're in the 100s to 120s or so, 106 weapons should be just fine, etc. Now, the higher you go, the more likely you are to get oxidized mineral powder. If you're an endgame player, that's probably what you're after. If you're trying to get that resource, just farm rocks around a desert map or find the ores inside of caves. Obviously, clip is going to help a lot with getting the specific powders, but everything I mentioned in the top left are really the key ways of getting that, so I recommend those methods. Twine, same as mineral powder, is all 5 of them. So stringy, simple, sturdy, peaky, and carved, starting around the 82-ish zones, but the higher level you go, the more likely you are to get carved twine. Again, whatever power level you are comfortably playing at is going to give you the twine that you need. If you're trying to get lots of twine right now, punch trees. There are other ways to get twine, I'm sure, like cactuses instead of deserts, but if you really want a lot of twine, just go to a forest zone at whatever power level is best for you. Higher is better if you're going for the carved twine. Put Clip in the lead or Fossil Southie in the lead. I have not found that to actually matter. I did a 1-hour forest farming test video and Fossil Southie had the exact same results. So do whatever you're comfortable with. I recommend Fossil Southie because you'll have extra energy for dealing with enemies around the map. But yeah, go to a forest, you'll get all the carved twine you could ever need. And then the stuff in the upper left, as usual, will give you the rest. Mechanical parts are the same as twine and powder, but it has one extra addition, and that is rotating gizmos. So rotating gizmos are a weird item in this game. They are functionally like a power cell, but for purple stuff and usually melees, but not exclusively. I don't know where to put them, but every way that you get rotating gizmos is the same as mechanical parts, and that includes all 5 tiers of mechanical parts. So rusty, simple, sturdy, sleek, and efficient. And with the previous 2 zones, they start in the 82 to 94 zones, and then the higher zone you go, the more you'll get efficient parts, which is the best you can get. Whatever zone you're comfortable with is going to give you the mechanical parts that you need, and plenty of rotating gizmos. Rotating gizmos are an item that we mostly age out of and stop needing, but it's there if you need it. You'll get it whether you're after it or not. And the way to get these items is just mechanical stuff. So fire hydrants, you got parking meters, cars, anything mechanical. Just run around a city or an industrial zone and smack anything that looks electronic. Search it first, maybe you'll get a battery. Anything electronic, smack it. You'll get all the mechanical parts and nuts and bolts and batteries that you need. You'll be good to go. So industrial or city zone plus everything mentioned in the upper left as usual. So the final tiered section are ores and crystals. So that includes copper, silver, malachite, obsidian, and brightcore, and then normal quartz, shadowshard, and sunbeam. If you're looking for the specific ores, it's again what I just said 4 times. It's in the 82 to 94 plus zones. The higher level you go, the more you'll get brightcore or sunbeam, and then the lower level, it'll just be scaled to your zone. Whatever zone you're comfortable playing at is where you'll get the ores that you need for the weapons that you are trying to craft. And ore deposits in caves are a thing that includes sunbeam. This is not the most efficient way. Again, I said this in the intro of the video, everything in the upper left are the best ways to get the tier 5 stuff, glowing animals, minigames, etc. But if you are trying to focus these, you can go inside of caves, but caves are highly inefficient. You might get like 6 to 12 in a game, but you will get more than that from everything else that I've already mentioned. So you can do both and then get all the ores and sunbeam that you need. Just know that you don't need a lot of it. For whatever reason, sunbeam has been treated as like the currency of trading. You don't need that much. A stack of sunbeam will craft you like 90 weapons or so. It's so much. And a normal sunbeam weapon should last a game or 2 and 180 games of Save the World. If you farm everything I've been saying passively, you know, recycling weapons, glowing animals, minigames, blah, 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 you should get more than enough sunbeam and brightcore to profit on whatever you're crafting, and that includes quartz as well. So yeah, quartz can be available at any power level. It's weird because crystal, this is why quartz has a 1-star next to it. It's technically a tier 1 crystal, and we just don't have a tier 2 or a tier 3. It just skips to Shadowshard, but you get crystal at any normal zone in all the ways that I've already mentioned. Shadowshard and Sunbeam are just in the later game. So it's a bit confusing, but also not really. So again, everything in the upper left are the best ways, and then those are the key ways to get them in map. Now, in the final section, I want to mention metal, brick, and wood, but I've kind of covered it. I mean, for metal, you just punch cars or anything metal. For brick, you just punch rocks or anything made of brick. And then if you want wood, you punch trees or anything made of wood. Search the stacks on the ground, run the supply crate expeditions, do your mini games. They'll give you hundreds if you do the right encampment, and you will have more builds than you'll ever need. You might not need a farming loadout for that. A lot of people like to run endurance AFK. It's not my thing. I don't usually recommend that because I just feel like it's not necessary, but if you have a friend with a recycling machine, you'll have more builds than you'll ever need. Just try not to stock up, you guys. I've seen a lot of people with like 100,000 builds in their storage. That is not necessary at all. You don't need that. It's a waste of space. Personally speaking, I keep a stack of each, and then I keep a little bit of extra in my storage. That has been completely fine. Anytime I run low, I just farm quick in game. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. And that just about covers it. So this was a gargantuan project for me. I don't even know how much editing this is going to take, but I really want this video to be extremely thorough and very useful. If I'm going to come back 5 years later, I'm going to try and come correct. So if you found this video useful or you learned anything from it, feel free to subscribe. I really do appreciate it. I don't plan to remake this video again. Something really fundamental would have to change to get me to do all this again, but I know it's really good for the community and I had so many new things to say. So once again, I hope it helped. Pin comment down below for any corrections. I'm sure there has to be something I missed, but that should be the gist of it. If you followed everything I said, it won't be a 100% every single source of every item ever, but you should get more than you need, and that's all that we're after anyway. So that's it. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Check out one of these recommended videos here at the end.
And then